Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Informed Fed. Jeff Roediger. Honored to have my co-host, Bryant Stone, the author of the Informed Fed, and my partner in the series that we're getting close to completing here. Welcome back, Bryant.
Hey Jeff, how you been, man? How's everything?
It's good. I can't believe we're just about ready to wrap up this book. It's been very educational. And today, chapter 11 is understanding required minimum distributions, or affectionately known as RMDs. It's a question that comes up a lot with federal employees and a good topic for today. Before we get started, whether you are joining us on our podcast networks or YouTube, make sure you click the links. There is a link to order and download the ebook, The Informed Fed, that we've been covering over the course of the past few months. And also, if you would like, there's a calendar link of Bryant's. You can book a meeting, complimentary consultation. Go back if you're joining us recently and go back, catch these other episodes. Very educational, and it's been well received. So, again, the Informed Fed. So, all right, let's pick up where we left off. Let's talk about this a little bit, Brian. What are the details on minimum distributions and how does it impact federal employees from your practice?
Sure. Yeah, so required minimum distributions, or like you said, RMDs, is really a hot topic now just because of all the changes with the tax codes. And when I'm doing planning, Jeff, with a lot of my clients, it is something that we try to have foresight on because one thing that you don't want to happen as a federal employee, and even if you're not a federal employee, just a retiree that's, built up a significant amount in their 401k or their IRA account, 457, really any account that's tax deferred. So you haven't paid any tax on it yet. It's important to really plan for it because a common issue that we see, Jeff, is that people do not plan for their required minimum distribution. And then all of a sudden they hit the RMD age, and now they're having to take out, X amount of dollars per year, whether it's 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, whatever it is. And then that money gets lumped on top of their Social Security, on top of their FERS annuity, on top of maybe they have private annuities, which and then in turn, Jeff's, increases their potential tax bracket, right? So then they're paying more taxes on all the other sources of income that they may have not thought that they may needed to pay as high a tax on. So it's one of those things that we like to have foresight. We like to try to find ways to mitigate the required minimum distributions. Now, just with some basic stuff, the RMD age used to be at 70 and a half. And then with the first Secure Act, that got bumped up to 72. And then with the most recent Secure Act 2.0, that did get bumped up to age 73. So, once you hit 73, 74, or 75, depending upon the year that you're born, that's when your required minimum distribution will be due. So, like, for example, Jeff, if we got a client that turns 73, let's say in June of this year, their first RMD would be due April 1st of 2026. And that RMD amount would be based upon what their balance was December 31st, 2025. So just some small foundational stuff that you need to know. And then each year, your RMD is going to be based on, what your previous year's balance was December 31st. So when you're looking at things like that, it's important to know those rules. Now, if you're a federal employee and you're still working, in your RMD age, you're actually not subject to RMDs. So if you have your TSP, and let's say it's $1 million, and let's say that you're still working past your RMD age, that $1 million would not be subject to the RMD. So that's important to know. So when you're making and thinking about making decisions of keeping the money inside TSP and or rolling that money out. So for that same scenario, if we had a federal employee who had those $1 million, Jeff, and let's say they're RMD age, and they're thinking about rolling those funds to an outside account, if they do, those funds now in that outside IRA are going to be subject to RMD. So it's very important to really look at things like that and know the rules, so you can understand if that makes sense for you or not, right? Because if you don't know those rules and you do it, and then that RMD then bumps you up into a new tax bracket unexpectedly, that could potentially cause an issue for you. So once again, just kind of knowing the rules there. A couple other things to think about when it comes to RMDs, and this is specific to actually a case that I ran into years ago when I was first starting off into the business. I had a client, Jeff, once, and I may have told this story on a previous session that we've done. So if I have, please don't mind me. But I had a client once, Jeff, who came to me from a workshop we had did, and she comes to me first meeting. She, brings all her documents. She puts them on the table. Then I noticed one document was basically a tax bill from the IRS. So I'd asked her what that tax bill was about. She said, "Well, I really don't know. I just got it. Really not sure what it is." So after doing some research, what we had found out, Jeff, is that that tax bill was actually from the fact that she didn't take out her required minimum distribution. So
Wow.
she had a $5,000 tax bill because the previous year she had a $10,000 RMD that she did not take out. And mind you, this lady had a financial advisor. So the first thing I said to her once we kind of figured out where the bill came from and what it was for was, so please tell me you're going to fire this guy, right? Because he's your
Right.
financial advisor, and he did not notify you and or be proactive about you taking out your RMD from the accounts that he's managing. She said that he did not talk about it. They had no clue. Now, mind you, the IRS does give you or not the IRS, the custodian that you have the account with is going to give you a notice, but they're not going to come banging on your door, Jeff, to
No.
tell you you need to take your RMD, right? So, um, and at that time, the excess tax was 50%. So, like, if you didn't take out your RMD of the 10,000, the excess tax was 50%. So then that client, just for not taking the money out, had a $5,000 tax bill. Now, with the
Oh,
most recent Secure Act 2.0, that XX tax has been brought down to 25%. So in that same scenario, there would have been a $2,500 tax penalty. I mean, it's still a pretty, significant amount that you're going to pay in taxes. But, once again, my thing always with financial planning, Jeff, with getting clients to really understand what their options are education and knowing the rules. Because once you know the rules, then you can actually play the game, right? Imagine playing football or playing basketball or something where you don't actually know the rules, right? You're going to get slaughtered. So same thing with your finances. If you don't know the rules, the tax rules or the IRA rules or the RMD rules, whatever it may be, and you're playing this game, then yeah, you could potentially find yourself getting slaughtered. So that's why I take pride, Jeff, in doing these podcasts and writing this book, and doing seminar presentations, webinar presentations, and just really educating the public because these are things that you need to know. So in order to plan, properly for your financial planning, right? So
absolutely. It's the mistakes that you didn't see coming that can wreck retirement planning. And we covered a lot of
100%.
that in these previous chapters, but this is another big one. And you don't want to look back. So yeah, great information.
Yeah, 100% spot on. A couple other quick nuggets, Jeff. I mean, when we talk about RMDs, a common way to, and this is really big piece of what we're doing in our practice now. and I probably may have talked about this too in prior sessions that we've done, but a way to basically reduce your required minimum distribution is a thing called Roth conversions, especially now that the Tax Cuts and Job Act, we're in the last year of it. So tax rates are still at historic lows. Now that's going to end in 2026 unless the current administration, decides to extend the Tax Cuts and Job Act. But the Roth conversions have been, extremely popular and has been a great tool in our practice to really help clients reduce their required minimum distributions. And really, essentially, what that means is that you're taking these qualified accounts, these tax deferred accounts, and you're converting. Let's say you got $1 million, you may convert 100,000 of that 1 million into a Roth IRA. You pay tax on it right then and there at a determined tax rate that you know, rather than deferring it to a later tax date that you don't know what it's going to be. And most people do anticipate taxes are going to increase. So, you do that conversion, you get the tax out the way, you either pay it out of pocket or you just pay it through the conversion. But that's been a real important planning piece in understanding RMDs and also reducing future RMDs. And then also just too, from a legacy standpoint, once that money's in that Roth, now that's a tax-free asset that can get passed to your heirs, and they're not going to be responsible for paying the tax on that money. So you're essentially taking care of that tax burden for them, rather than deferring it to your RMDs and or to when you pass away, and then your
Right.
kids being responsible of paying that tax burden. Because this one last piece here I'll mention is that with any inherited IRA that a child is going to receive, with the new Secure Act, they have that 10 years to pay taxes on it. So if they're inheriting $1 million IRA, essentially they're going to have to pay $100,000 in taxes on that over a 10-year period. And, just imagine what that problems that can cause, Jeff, right? Somebody's in the prime of their working career. Yeah, they get $1 million asset from their parents, I mean, which is good, and they're not going to complain about it. But what it's going to do to their current income and their taxes is going to be, catastrophic, right? So, these are the things that, even looking past you, that we like to look at in our practice from a legacy planning standpoint, to really make sure that you're, getting the most out of your dollars.
Absolutely.
And if you can save yourself a couple hundred grand, then why not, right?
Everybody would if they knew. It's that simple. It's knowledge is power.
Exactly,
Uh,
man. So yeah, those are just a
people,
quick few snippets of, understanding RMDs. Obviously, the rest will be in the book, but yeah, just a few quick things there.
yeah, that's great. My favorite quote: "People perish for lack of knowledge." There's another example. So everybody out there, so you need to book a complimentary consultation with Bryant. Again, Bryant is a fiduciary investment advisor specializing in federal employees. So you'll also want to go check out My Fed University. Great information on our site. Also, check out my podcast series, Replacing Wall Street with Main Street, a series of episodes where I've interviewed over the years financial advisors on different topics. So, again, get the book and also schedule a no cost consultation with Bryant on any of the topics we've covered. Get your questions answered. So, Bryant, thank you again.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure going through this together, and had a lot of fun doing it. And
Yeah.
yeah, we got one more to do. So
Yeah, so we are going to wrap up. We've covered the chapters. We're going to wrap up. Look for this episode to drop. Final recommendations for all of you federal employees out there, your benefits and retirement packages. We're going to go through four common problems that federal employees have when they're exiting. So I want to make sure that you join us for that episode as we wrap up this series. So again, subscribe if you're following us on YouTube. Click the bell to subscribe. That helps us as we grow this. And that concludes our session for today. Thanks, Bryant. We'll be back with final recommendations, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Investment advisory services offered through Red Hawk Wealth Advisors Incorporated, an SEC registered investment advisor. Top Rank Advisors LLC and Red Hawk Wealth Advisors Incorporated are not affiliated.